I started with the 1080 pocket, and that was all like ProRes.
Yeah.
And it was like fine. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like if I have to.
That's what I had too, the tiny one.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for meeting with me.
Yeah, of course. It's good to see you again, Zane.
Yeah, firm
handshake.
Do you want to introduce the what you did with the 12 movie project?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can introduce that. Do I talk to the camera at all? Or
I think we'll just talk to each other,
okay,
honestly.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, last year I undertook a sort of crazy project. I set out to make 12 feature-length movies in 12 months.
Yeah.
And on the offset of the year, I sort of knew it would be both really hard, but also I knew I would do it.
Yeah.
Because I had made enough movies efficiently and independently at that point that I knew I could kind of pull it off. And now I am on the other side of pulling it off. And that feels good.
Yeah. Do you feel like all of the years of weekly shorts, you kind of just got to a point that like you know how to make things enough to where jumping into a feature-length thing is just way less intimidating?
I think so. I think as much as the weekly short sort of informed it, it was also informed by like the features, because I would do like at least one feature a year since 2016.
Yeah.
And they feel very much like their own beast. I'd say the closest comparison I can make is like a short, like the weekly short. It's sort of a feature is just doing that 50 times, you know? But like keeping in mind, and where a feature is so different is you're keeping in mind how all those disparate scenes connect and interplay and interconnect, and I think you're keeping track of a lot more with a feature, and there's things about feature filmmaking that I think you could only learn by feature filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know, like as nice as it would be to be like making 1,000 shorts gets you ready for your feature. I think ultimately story structure, pacing a longer form project, all that sort of has to come just by doing it.
Yeah. I think sometimes watching yours, like it's kind of mind-boggling because I know that you don't really write and it's all like very improv based, but some of the films do have way more traditional like plot structure and kind of wrap up in such a nice way. It does feel like I don't quite understand how it wasn't like pre-planned or pre-written or whatever. So like how have you kind of gotten into that instinct of like knowing like where to take the story as you go?
That's a great question. I think like a familiarity with stories is very important, and I think like it's not like you don't have to sit down with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and dissect every step, which is the first movie, The Hero's Journey. I think there's just like through engaging with media, whether it's movies, books, video games, whatever, you sort of ingrain a knack for storytelling into your subconscious.
Yeah.
And I think combining that with a trust and confidence in improv allows the two to sort of merge every step of the way, and you don't even realize it. It's like what you think is a funny thing or a little like interesting side thing you're throwing in a scene in the first half of the film, you realize becomes a callback. And that's the same thing that happens when you write a script. You write something into the movie and you're pulling back at it later. Right. And sometimes you don't plan that. Sometimes it happens. And I think improv is just sort of writing with footage. You know, you're sort of you're sort of like locking in the scenes of your screenplay because they're already shot. And in my mind, I never see a screenplay, but I'm seeing like an outline of this story that I'm assembling as if you would on a page. I think just treating it that way allows you to build natural arcs and ups and downs and callbacks and seeds you're planting. I think that's sort of the joy of it to me.
Yeah. Does this kind of mean that you shoot completely linearly? Like, or is there a thing where you feel like you know what the end of the movie is and so you film that and then like resume where you guys were?
It's different per project. There was a couple movies shot linearly. We'll get into the specific movies, but like the 9th movie was shot linearly. Joel and Trent friendship movie. That was shot linearly. But for the most part, no. For the most part, I'm building it out in like Lego pieces, you know? And sometimes you'll have a Lego piece from the Act 3 before you've even figured out Act 2. And I think what makes that so fun and exciting is when you're looking ahead to that Lego piece that you already have, you could be very intentional about how you get there because you know your character has reached this either point of despair or success or something. So you're like, how do I bring them from Act 1 to Act 3 gracefully? And it's the same, like I said, I'll repeat it over and over. It's very much like writing with footage. You're like, if you have the ending to your screenplay that you really love, that's pretty well set in stone. And then you're just trying to make a good bridge. Yeah. And I think like building those bridges is one of the most fun parts of it because it's not linear for the most part. It's not chronological. I'm sort of planting these seeds in every direction, and the seeds can grow backwards in time also. Yeah. You know, like it's not just like planting a seed at the start of the movie and seeing where it goes. It's like planting a seed at the end of the movie and see how that pulls at the start. Yeah. And I think, you'd think because it's improv, it's linear, but I don't think. I think the superpower I have, if there's anything I do exceptionally well that feels like maybe like my strongest suit, it is that mental memory of everything happening in this movie. And it goes down to like the smallest performance thing. It's like, oh, this character wouldn't be this happy in this scene because this is coming. Like, you have to really track that in a movie, whether you're writing it or not. You have to track, are things butting heads? And I think doing that without a piece of paper to look at is sort of my superpower if I had one.
Yeah. So here, format-wise, we'll just go through the 12 movies, and I will kind of have to be somewhat brief just due to the quantity of them. Yeah. But how about like I bring up the movie, and would you want to just give like a loose like premise?
Yeah.
So the first one, The Hero's Journey, My Life, a.k.a. Caleb Johnston story. I'm Caleb.
So this movie is a mockumentary. Yeah. And it's I think the only movie this year, other than the ones where I'm literally playing myself, it's the only movie this year that is based on an existing world I've already kind of set up. Yeah. And it's following this guy, Caleb Johnston, who is a small town burnout from Connecticut, who I've played many times in shorts over the years. So it felt like a logical kicking off point to do like a feature length exploration of this character because he's my favorite character to play, and I feel like I just know him because in a lot of ways he's me or a version of me that could have existed or something like that. So it was a mockumentary about him and told from his camcorder.
No, stupid is a really mean word. I wouldn't say that. No, I never said that. No, what I said was that he's not like the most intellectual, academic type of person. And I stand by that, it's true, but like, whatever, you know, like, people are good at different things.
Okay, so was it filmed on like a digital camcorder, not like VHS, right?
Yeah, I wish I had it at hand. There it is. I got this. I went to a Best Buy in Massachusetts, which is where I shot it, and I'm like, what's like the oldest thing they have? And it's like collecting dust in the camera section, and I found this, which wasn't cheap. There's no like deal for like getting an old piece of crap. It costs like $200, $300 still. but I've used it. This was the 9th movie was also shot on this. Yeah. And I really love it. It's so simple. The audio sucks. It doesn't sync right. Everything's wrong. But like for the most part, like I just love the look because it's kind of a nice midpoint between like a crisper 1080 4K and like an old vintage look. Yeah. It's somewhere in between.
And then you filmed that one in your hometown, right? How did you like decide that's how you wanted to start with all this?
Caleb, I think, even though ironically, I think the first Caleb video ever, which is him breaking down the hero's journey, I shot that in New York. But for me, like, Caleb needs to be in a small town. Like
Yeah.
ever since I did punching my, getting back at my ex-girlfriend's new lover, Jack Stevens. That's like a 20-minute short film about him. And that felt so right in my hometown. And then I did the live stream in my hometown. The more I like worked on the character, I'm like, he doesn't work in LA. Like you can't transplant Caleb in LA and have him make sense. And he's pulling so much from my upbringing and my life in a rural town in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Even though I set him in Connecticut, which is the grand lie of the movie, because I keep saying it's Milford, Connecticut, which is just a random town I picked off a map. But like, it's so funny because I get comments and people are like, dude, I recognize that store from Milford. Like people are like seeing stuff in the background in the Caleb videos. And I'm like, it's not Milford, but I'm glad you're tricked into thinking it is. I mean, all of New England is the same. I think he needs to be there. And it's kind of sad because I always have like a thought like, oh, I want to do like a Caleb thing. Like I wanted to make a Caleb TikTok at one point, but I'm like, shit, I'm in LA. I can't do him in LA. Like it would have to be some burnout story of him coming to LA to pursue some career, but even that wouldn't read right. He needs to be this guy who's not pursuing something. He needs to be like kind of stuck in his, hometown.
Yeah. This next question I think can kind of just bleed into the next film and really all of these, but what's your pitch to your friends when you're trying to get them involved in making a whole movie with you? Because I think something like I struggle with sometimes when it comes to making things is just like the ask of like, hey, can you act and kind of commit yourself to this project with me for the afternoon? And so with a movie and it's like you're filming with them like for days and days and days, like how do you go about that?
That's a great question. I think it's so different from project to project. So there's the literal creative side of the pitch, which is like, this is what we're doing. And I think usually I've surrounded myself with creative people who kind of see eye to eye with me a lot. Not that they're yes men. People bring a lot of their own stuff onto my projects. But like ultimately, I think like I surround myself with people who sort of have similar visions. So when I pitch them something like, oh, Caleb mockumentary, they're like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Like doing that for an hour and a half makes sense because we've done it before. But like any project, I think like I'm trying to create something that the people I'm designing the project around are perfect for. So when they hear it, it's just like a no-brainer. So there's the creative side of the pitch, which is like, hey, Blake, you want to do a movie about you being an actor who ruins his life through his ego, and it just makes sense to them. They're like, oh, of course, and like they love acting. My friends love acting and performing, and we've created an environment where we love making stuff together. So I think that feels like a no-brainer. And then the logistical side of the pitch is like, how many days is this going to take? I often don't know because the movies are improvised. But last year, everyone who had to take off work or devote time to it, that's where the Patreon money came in, and I was able to compensate people for that time so then they could fully devote themselves. Those are the people like Trent, Alex, and Mason on the Diarrhea movie, which we'll get to. That took like 2 weeks and change to shoot, and I flew them out here, Mason and Alex, and gave them money for those 2 weeks so they could just focus on this project. If somebody's giving like that much time and I'm asking that much, I think at this point I was able to compensate them. Like if I didn't have the funding, I've done movies where like I didn't have the funding and there's just a agreement of trust that no one's getting paid for this. It's a passion project, like spending 2 weeks making Drowning in Potential with Dax Flame. That was how we met each other, but we just sort of went into it with the trust that we, would make a movie. It's sort of a big question, but I think it's just a combination of trust and fun, making your movies fun. A lot of film sets aren't fun. A lot of film sets are long and belabored and setting up lights for 8 hours. And I think if somebody shows up and you tell them they're only needed for an hour and then they're actually only needed for an hour, next time they come, they're going to be like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. That was
Right.
easy and fun, and I got to see a fun film out of that. I got to be in a movie. I got to be in a short. And I think if you're just like good about not wasting people's time, they'll be very generous with their time each time you need it subsequently, because they trust you,
Yeah, and so with these movies where it took about 2 weeks to shoot, are you only shooting like an hour a day for those 14 days, or?
No, it's very different. It's very different from day to day movie. Like there's long days of shooting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can move into the next movie, but like anyone else but me, for example, all the desert stuff with the kidnapping subplot was shot in like a day and a half, where we all went out to Joshua Tree and got an Airbnb. So we were shooting morning to night that day, but that's like on a typical set where you're shooting morning to night, you might get like 5 minutes of the film at best, but we got like 20 minutes of the movie. We shoot fast and get a lot and get extra stuff that we wind up cutting, but just like to try stuff out. So it's definitely like if we shoot all day, it's a jam-packed day and we get a lot of the movie done.
Don't do that again. What do I do with the knot here this time?
Just keep tying it.
I was tying it last time, but you didn't like it. Somehow she got out.
Stop it!
I'm just going to triple knot it. Is that better?
Oh my God.
Is a triple knot better than a double knot?
Just keep doing it!
Okay, honestly, no one's going to hear you. We're 10 miles in the desert. That's just going to hurt my ears. Just don't do that.
No one's going to hear you.
Better than a double knot?
Just quadruple knot it. Just keep going.
Fine.
So this film, I guess just to pay you a compliment, not even a question, I think that the casting was so good. Like I thought Sven and Charlie's as kidnappers and just kind of the aggression they had with each other, but then also like the funny undertone of them wanting to be actors was great. Blake as a lead, and like this kind of like, this movie reminded me of like a Safdie brothers movie more than anything. Like it felt very of that kind of intense vein, but with such like a bumbling guy, which I thought was great. And like Ryan's little role was good. There's somebody else.
Caroline, who plays the ex, I think she's fantastic. She comes on screen just enough to be like this. I think she's the heart of the movie in a lot of ways. Everything is sort of centered around this character that we only see a handful of times, but Caroline's so great.
Yeah.
Natalia, who plays the kidnapped girl, everyone's so good in it.
Yeah, and Spencer, even just with like the VR scenes, like makes me laugh like so hard. This movie is the one that like I think I the most don't understand how it's not like written. Yeah, like it feels very conventional with like plot structure and how everything pays off. So how were you guys figuring this out as you went along?
Okay, so that's a good question. I think anyone else but me was me like being like, I'm stepping behind the camera. Like I'm on camera for most of my movies just by virtue of I'm my most available resource. Like this is so true. Huge, great advice to anybody who's trying to make stuff independently. Become an actor, because if you're one of your go-to actors, you could do so much, if you could be the main character. I mean, it's obnoxious. I think sometimes people like roll their eyes at like the writer, actor, director, producer, like Tommy Wiseau, Neil Breen, kind of give it a bad name, even though they're awesome in their own ways. But like being everything gives you so much freedom. So I like acting in my stuff, and it gives me that like production element of freedom. Like the Caleb movie was so easy because like 50% of that movie was just me and a camcorder, but like ultimately anyone else but me was me kind of wanting to zig and zag the other way entirely, where I'm like, okay, I just did a movie where it was too much Joel, let's pull back and do a movie where there's no Joel, and instead I'm more the cinematographer, director, calling the shots. And I think in those movies, which I'm trying to picture which other ones, I mean, I'm not on camera in Hello, My Beautiful Creatures. I'm not on camera much in Hiccups. I think those ones are the ones that are most aesthetically realized, because I'm not trying to like set up a half-ass shot where I'm on camera too, or like hand the camera to a friend and be like, hey, get this shot. Instead, I'm really focusing on that side of things as well. And I think maybe that helps the story really become something. I also think the other answer to this is like anyone else but me was like the culmination of 3 years of me knowing and loving working with these people in LA.
Yeah.
Like Drowning in Potential was me getting to LA and making this movie. And in a way, I think Drowning in Potential needed to be a very loose story. It's like a lot of scenes and moments and feelings, but there's not like concrete like plot arcs beyond like the emotional arc of the main character. But I think after years in LA, I'm just like, these people are so fun to make stuff with. What if we just made like our own version of like a Coen Brothers movie or like a crime movie or something like that, but in a believable way enough that it's not like too hammy or too over the top, because I think a lot of filmmakers set out to make a feature and it's full of guns and it's like 18-year-olds holding guns and you're like, what is this movie?
Yeah.
But
it had a good balance of having like the severity of crime in it, but with like a bunch of believably like normal and like incompetent people. You know? Yeah.
I think a key thing, the hardest thing in that movie to sell was the kidnapping.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if we introduce this element and it's too dark, because a woman getting grabbed on the street at night is just so dark, and instantly I knew we needed to alleviate that. And there's a couple ways we do it, like when Chad grabs her, he gets elbowed immediately. He's like, "You hit my fucking eye," which like alleviates that a little. But then the first scene, we see them bickering, and it's like, oh, these aren't like intimidating men, and this isn't a story about a woman being held by like these violent men. This is a story about a woman who has so much power over these men because they are desperate to what they think they could get from her, but she is just like not playing into they're almost like they're making their own movie. They're trying to make the serious kidnapping movie and failing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the plot came together just because we all loved making stuff together, and I think we all have the ambition to make stuff. And I think a big impetus for the 12 movies was like, I'm looking around me like, Blake is a fantastic actor. Why is there not a movie starring this guy? And all these friends of mine are so creative and talented. I'm like, I'd love to watch a movie that's just us, so why not make it, you know?
Yeah.
And then just stepping back behind the camera just allowed me to be a little more intentional with shooting and stuff.
Yeah. And then so the next one, The Text, that was your annual Oscar movie, make it in 3 hours thing. And here, do you want to describe the premise?
So every year I shoot a movie during the Oscars, as you know, and I've done it 5 years running now, I think. And it's just that when I had the idea, I'm like somebody who obnoxiously preaches like independence. So obviously the Oscars are sort of the antithesis of how I see filmmaking. It's like this lavish, expensive celebration of just the most expensive, top of the line films, and it doesn't really acknowledge this newfound freedom that people aren't even embracing fully yet. And so when I thought of the idea, I'm like, what a perfect idea, like to be like, we could make a movie in 3 hours, why not? And like we did it the first year, and we've done it every year since, made like a 40-minute and up movie, which is we're kind of using the Oscars timeline against them, because Oscars consider 40 minutes and up feature length. So like as long as we hit 40 minutes, we made a feature according to the Oscars. Even though that's so wishy-washy, that length of movie, like 40 to 60 minute movies don't really exist.
Could I?
What's up?
Could I ask you something?
Yeah, sure. What's going on?
It's kind of private, or like intense, I guess.
Oh no. Is everything okay?
Let me see.
Something happened, or? So
That'll work. All right. Okay, 48 hours then. That's perfect. All right, fine. Great. Okay, I can't talk. I gotta go. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Hello.
Hey, sorry.
Okay, cool.
What's this?
I'm not finished. Hold on. Sorry.
It's nothing, or it's a text.
Ted's phone?
Yeah.
You sent this last night?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. It's made me appreciate it though, because it's like I do love a good 90 to 2 hour thing, but then at the same time, like watching a good 45 minutes, I'm like, that was a nice unit of time.
Yeah, it is nice. It's like a TV episode, but we often leave that to TV or stuff like that. But it's like a perfect length to like do what I would call like a slice of a character, rather than like you're not going to see their whole arc from rags to riches or vice versa. Instead, you're going to just see a moment in time, and I think that's what it does really well.
Yeah.
And the text is like taking that to the most extreme version because it's all in one shot, all real time. And I think what inspired that is my friend Dan Lotz, who's a filmmaker online.
Yeah.
He did a movie all in one shot during the Oscars a couple of years previous. And I realized, I'm like, oh, that's the perfect format for this. Because there's no rules that you can't rehearse and prepare your movie ahead of time, as long as it is shot during the Oscars.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this is the perfect format, because you could rehearse for days and plan like a great one take. And then that movie will feel way more complete and like realized than like what I've done in the past, which are these super janky, fast. Like I love the one I did with Trent in this room, actually. I think that feels pretty cohesive too. But that was like super bare bones production, 2 cameras.
With the text, since you guys did 3 takes and it's like completely choreographed, like how long beforehand did you have it like figured out? Because with that, like that's essentially being like written in terms of like knowing where people have to stand and say, right?
Yeah, it's essentially written by the end in a way that like there's still room for a lot of change. A really interesting thing that happened is the best take we went with was like 48 minutes. But one of the other takes was like 42 minutes. And we were kind of clueless. We were like, how was there 6 minutes of difference? But I just think the improv of the moments, because as long as people are getting to their spots and they're blocking, then they're free to improvise. And as long as they get to the next bit of blocking, they're free to improvise. So it's like still allowing a lot of room for like people to chime in. There's nothing set in stone. And I think that was really fun about the format, because like I've heard the same thing about the movie Victoria, which is a movie shot in one take. And in an interview, the director talks about how like he forbid his actors from saying the same thing each take. He's like, you can't, that's now off limits. And I think it like allowed the spontaneity to continue to exist even though the takes were so rehearsed.
Yeah.
And I think like allowing some room for that is smart to avoid it feeling too set in stone and rehearsed and blocked like a play. And the fun thing we did, you asked how long beforehand did we have it ready? And we were still figuring out take 1, take 1 was pretty well a rehearsal, because we knew like we still need to lock this in, because we rehearsed the movie in 2 halves. There's a distinct moment where Francesca's character shows up, and we blocked the second half and the first half and rehearsed it over and over again separately. So then like by the time we were shooting, we hadn't even married them together. So there was just like that transitional moment.
The stories or just the blocking?
Just the blocking. Like,
okay.
So there, take 1 was like our first time running it through start to finish.
Yeah. And so as far as like the story itself and what everybody's saying, even if the wording is kind of different each time, like did you guys come up with that like the day before or like while you were there?
We had a whole weekend to do that. So we got there Friday night and rehearsed all day. Like talked a little about the story Friday night, rehearsed morning to night Saturday, and then Sunday was the shoot, but we also rehearsed that morning.
Yeah.
And what's really fun about the long takes, and I just did another one this year with The Call, is what's fun is you build it chronologically and it just makes sense. Because like you're like, okay, our characters are here. What do they do next? They walk over here, or we want them to walk over there. So how do we do that? Well, this character walks and does another thing.
Yeah.
And I think where the text was very focused, I think The Call sort of nailed the blocking a lot more. I think we really had it like so snappy. Everything was motivated. The camera was always following somebody.
Yeah.
The text has a lot of lulls. Like the first 5 minutes are pretty slow, but it's building up to this text.
Yeah, the atmosphere that's built with Ben playing the piano is also great though. So there's like even a lot of just like from the audience perspective to kind of take in, even when it's just like maybe Trent walking into the next room.
Yeah. The piano definitely was like a sort of super cool diegetic music soundtrack that we did. And sadly for the call, just the Airbnb we had was perfect for everything except it didn't have a piano. So we're just like, no music this time except at the end.
Yeah, I like that you use the theme for the credits again.
Yeah.
So do you want to set up Hello, My Beautiful Creatures?
Yes, I would love to. Hello, My Beautiful Creatures to me is the crazy lose your mind masterpiece of the year. I think it's the best movie in a lot of ways. I think I love them all separately and for different reasons, and each one does something really strong, but I think Hello, My Beautiful Creatures does like 30 things really strong, and one of those things is ambition.
And I'm going to order Domino's tonight. So look forward to that, and that's the end of my message. Thank you.
Here we go. Up, going back into its position now. Everybody look out.
And so me and this guy, Eric Bernhagen, he runs a YouTube channel that I've always loved. He's an insane artist who makes these fucked up, weird videos where he's like, his mom's his caretaker, but she's poisoning him. And it's like so funny. And he had started to incorporate little bits of stop motion into his last couple uploads at that point in time. And at the start of the year, I knew I wanted to make a movie with Eric because I visited him once. We made a couple shorts, but I'm like, this guy is so genius and so funny, and I just want to make a movie with him. So I flew out to Minnesota and stayed with him for what was going to be 18 days. And we're like, let's make a movie. And pretty quickly, we're like, oh, this is going to be like stop motion. And we thought like, oh, maybe there's going to be like some real world elements. That'll make it a little easier to shoot and get through. Like maybe like other characters will come and these toys will interact with them and there'll be scenes of just humans. Like we'll follow Eric to his job. But as the movie started to write itself, we're like, oh no, this is just about these toys. And there's this one element of Eric being this god who just comes and goes. Yeah. But like, so as we realize that, we're like, this is the best story we can tell. But that means we have to stop motion animate every scene in the movie. and that made those 18 days. I extended my flight, I think 3 times because I kept thinking we'd be done. And God bless his girlfriend for letting us stay because we were like literally, we built this city in their room. And like we were there some nights till 5 a.m. animating. And but it's a sort of a crazy story about society and humanity and about how people in power never have your best interest in mind, and about how love and hate are one and the same, and they'll destroy you and destroy a society, you know. And it has all these different elements and layers, and ultimately I'm just like, and my friend Mikey did this huge orchestral score for it. Like that was like the first time I really worked close with Mikey, and he was amazing. And that took like a month because there's like an hour and a half of music in that movie because it's a 2.5 hour movie.
I love that by the end when they're all like killing each other, that there's actually like meat and like blood and stuff. I like the implication that like even though they're little like baby dolls, they have like flesh and like they're fully alive.
They sort of become sentient by being welcomed into God's world. When he brings them in with his suitcase, he dooms them to be a fleshy body or something. There's a lot of ambiguity in like the world building of that movie, which I like, but like
the bit with the falling Freddy thing where they're like, he's supposed to be in peril forever, don't save him.
It's sort of how we look at everything in society. You know, you walk by homeless people every day, and as much as you can empathize and feel sympathy, you have to compartmentalize it as like, well, they are there, you know, like that homeless person, they're there, you know, that's where they wound up, you know. So it's sort of like, all the horrible shit you have to overlook just to continue about your day and routine. And I think Falling Freddy just encompasses that, because he's just this poor little boy who's screaming for help, but everyone is just like, oh, he screams for help. That's what he does, you know?
Were the squirrels speaking like Japanese?
They were speaking Mandarin.
Mandarin, okay.
Mikey's friend speaks Mandarin and or Cantonese. They speak Cantonese, yeah.
Okay.
It was just these squirrels that were like, how funny would it be if they're like these clearly fake squirrels that are like just like not at all these real squirrels that this girl's longing for at the window, and then they become sort of philosophers of the movie. And
I think something that's really impressive too with this one is like, it's not just that you're doing stop motion and there's many different characters and things moving in each shot, but there's like camera movement and lens racks and stuff as well. And I'm like, I was watching, I was like, this is the most, like, were you going insane making this?
We were going insane. I think like we went with 6 frames a second, which I think is the biggest thing that turns people away from the movie. I think if the movie was 12, maybe it would like have garnered a huge following by now, because I think it is an insane movie, but the jank kind of is a hard wall for some people. But I love it. I think like the movie is so handmade that the jank lends itself to that. But even at 6 frames a second, we'd have days where we're like, fuck, we got 3 minutes of footage today, or fuck, we got like 2 scenes, and we have like we had just a list of the scenes we had in mind as the story built, and it was just getting bigger and bigger, and we're like, well, we have to do like 5 scenes to set up the nudies, the toys who are naked under the bed, so we have to build that set, and then when we build that set, they were like there were headaches. Fortunately, we never had a moment where one of us like stumbled and collapsed on the entire set or like set us back entirely. I think there was some things that were killing us. Like, none of these toys are stop motion puppets. That's like, when you make a stop motion puppet, you build it with a wire frame, so it's super easy to pose and stand, and it has a stand. These were just old ass, for the most part, vintage toys that we had to pose with putty. And like, you could see the putty in the movie. We immediately accepted like, oh, we're not going to hide this, because like we're going to be battling these things left and right. So you could see the putty, and it almost feels like the movie could be like a delusion or creation of the god in the movie. But like he is almost making it himself. But I think there was, Eric and I worked very well together. Like, we saw each other's worst and each other's best, but like our worst was just minor frustration and being like, fuck, if a toy fell over 6 times in a row. And I'd often, if there was an elaborate camera move, I really focused on that while Eric did the character animation. Yeah, and
just I can't think of the word, but distributing like the labor of it. Yeah,
where certain shots, like we'd have like 2 characters, and I'd take over one, he'd take the other, and we'd like each pose, snap, pose, snap. Yeah,
And then so at that point you were putting a movie out every month, and then this kind of threw you way off course. And then, did this come out in like July or something instead of April?
Instead of April, it might have come out in July.
Yeah, and so the next one, It Just Takes Time, was that August?
I think so. Yeah. So what happened is, the stop motion movie took 3 months, which I think is crazy that a movie of that ambition was done in 3 months, but still, I'm like, damn, I shot myself hard. Like, I'm gonna have to recover from this. Like, but then I did a sort of back shooting. I shot the next 3 without releasing one. I went, we'll get into them, but I went to Oregon and shot It Just Takes Time. Then I flew to New York and shot Hiccups, and then I flew to Dubai and shot Love, Celeste. So it was this back to back. I'm like, okay, I'm like, I have a deficit right now. Yeah. And I'm like, if I just get a bunch of movies shot, then I'll feel good about it, because I know I can lock in and edit. Yeah. So It Just Takes Time was the first one after Hello, My Beautiful Creatures. Let's go over here.
Yeah, and so that's movie 5, and then later on in the 9th movie, which is like a meta thing, Ryan describes it as a sad day in Oregon, which made me laugh so hard because this one was one of my more favorite ones. I just it just takes time is really beautiful, and I just love the complete dissolving it down to just a sad day in Oregon in that later one. But
it's really funny to see the movies that people like resonate so much with, because when I did like It Just Takes Time, felt like this is like my bread and butter, like, and maybe that's why it came out so well. It's like I knew how to do this. I've done like naturalism. I've done like just people talking. It felt like my bread and butter, but in that way, it also felt like kind of a gimme. Like it still took 9 days to shoot, and Dax and I drove up all the way to Oregon and committed to the project wholly. But like ultimately, it was like I know how to get this one done. And following it up with like Hiccups and the Dubai movie, I'm like, oh, these are the heavy hitters, and It Just Takes Time is just gonna be like one of the quieter movies of the 12 movies. But like seeing people, like that's one of the most positively received ones. And I think in retrospect, as it came together, I was like, oh wait, we actually made something really special here. Like I think, and that's just a matter of like, I've always wanted to make a bigger project with Noah and Drew, and like Dax and I work so well together. So I think that magical combination kind of just led to like a very honest, simple film.
I think like some of your strengths and how you shoot nature and environments and stuff lended itself to Oregon like really well. Like just that shot of the snail in the beginning when you guys are in the woods is so pretty and detailed, and Drew's music is really fantastic. Like Drew, the Droodle music is excellent, and so it was cool kind of seeing him do the music and act in it at the same time.
Yeah, he's such a talented musician, and I'm like blown away. He also did the score of my final movie, which we'll get to. Yeah. But like, and he did some Diarrhea Brothers score. But Drew scoring, I'm like, oh, he's like making a score that I've never heard before. You know, like Hello My Beautiful Creatures was incredible score, and it had a lot of fun, like toy-like, you know, stuff, but it was still like orchestral. You kind of heard a lot of the motifs before, and it was pulling from those tropes and cliches to tell this grand story. But Drew is making score for It Just Takes Time that I'm like, I've never heard this. Like the voice as an instrument. He was doing a lot of like choir with his voice and rhythm with his voice. And he was doing like really cool stuff throughout that whole score. And he released it, and it's really pretty to listen to.
Yeah, and I like the way he uses kind of like plucky sounding acoustic guitar, and then whatever kind of almost like accordion sounding kind of instrument is there. Yeah, it's really nice.
He loves that accordion sound. The omnichord, I think it's called. And like he's just a fantastic. I mean, I preach his albums all the time. I'll do it again. Goblins Are Real and Jokes for Dogs are his 2 albums, and I love them both.
Yeah, no, I started listening to both of those because of you, and they're very good. Yeah. Would you want to set up the plot for this movie?
Yeah.
And I know we're halfway through talking about it.
Yeah. So It Just Takes Time is a movie about these guys who are meeting up, and it's one of your superpowers as a filmmaker is the unknown, like doling out information, doling it out in a very intentional way. I think like I wanted it to be very like drip fed. What's going on? You open the movie, this guy's shaving his head. What's going on? They're driving up the coast to see a friend. And it ends on this like note that you're like, what is this note? Who is it for? And some people came away from the movie not sure what the people were grieving, and I'm like, I think it was pretty clear by the end that
I think it is.
that like it was Drew's brother, obviously, but like it's about these friends meeting up after one of their brothers passes away, and sort of just the quietness of grief. Because when I lost my dad, I think I had like this realization that like yes, there are those like especially the first week or those first couple nights that you're just like gasping for air, screaming your lungs out. And those are very dramatic. But then there's this month period where everyone's just sort of around, like
Yeah.
like friends are stopping by, you're playing Frogger on the PS2, like, and like they go and it's just like, hey, good to see you again. And no one's really like saying anything.
Yeah.
You're not having deeper conversations unless they come up, you're really just sitting in your feelings. And I think that's such a pivotal part of grief. I think a lot of healing happens in that time. A lot of compartmentalizing and like figuring out how to exist with those feelings inside you and kind of putting them back in your head. And I think this movie wanted to capture that because me and a number of my friends I made it with had all experienced loss in the last couple of years. And I think it was just like, I talked to Drew and he's like, oh, I want to make like a drama. And like when because at the start of the year, Drew was also one of those people that I'm like, I need to make a movie with you. And he's like, what if we made a drama as opposed to like a goofy comedy? I was like, okay, yeah, of course, I'd be down. And I think there's plenty of comedy in the movie, but it's still like staying true to the emotions and committing. And I think that's what the movie really set out to do, like commit to that feeling.
I think you really nailed it. Like we've talked about this. I lost my mom a few years ago to cancer as well. And I remember like that feeling you had of just people being around. Like I had one friend I hadn't seen in a while and he texted me like saying like, yeah, let me know if you need anything. And usually when people say that, it's like I feel a little bit of an abstract concept, but I was like, do you have a rake? So he helped me like rake my yard and he was laughing really hard because he's like, this is not what yeah, but I was like, listen, doing like chores right now is really hard, so this is actually like monumental, and just like just kind of the way you fill the space during that really weird initial time. And so just like all the characters doing the fireworks or sitting around listening to the other friend play guitar. And I'm a big fan of Ratatouille on GameCube, so that was good. I like that.
Yeah, that was a good pull.
Yeah. I thought also the kind of little commentary you had of the guy making YouTube videos about making YouTube videos, or specifically like the algorithm and stuff. For you, like, was that just kind of some like inner feelings of people just doing kind of?
I think it was like, the impetus was like, how do you make a character more interesting than just grieving sad guy? Like I think my character is one impetus in this movie is I'm like, I don't want to play myself. I often play somebody who looks and sounds like me. Yeah. So I was like, if I shave my head and talk with a little like lisp, I'm going to be able to disappear into a character more, which was something I had been wanting to do. And then like so I'm already sort of like a very like loud character in the movie as far as like personality. So then I had Noah who like there's like an unspoken like distance between him and Drew that is interesting, but I think giving him a little more of something, and I think seeing somebody trying and failing at this like very like half-assed version of success, because like making a YouTube channel about make like how to get views on YouTube, but then you're not getting views yourself is sort of this like Sisyphean torture that you're putting yourself through. And I have so much empathy for those people who think that's the way forward. They're like, this will go viral because it's about the algorithm and views, but it never does for them. And I think like seeing somebody like Drew plays music in the movie, I think Dax is the most vague character in the movie perhaps, but like everyone has like a bit of a drive beyond grief, like something that they might go back to or something like that. And I think Noah's was the strongest just because like that's something I relate to so much as somebody who was doing weekly uploads for a long time and seeing no success. Like I can't imagine if those weekly uploads were something I wasn't even passionate about, right. And you're just sort of like catering to the algorithm from the get-go. It's sort of like a half-hearted pursuit of your dreams that when paired with like heavy grief, it sort of takes on a very empathetic, sympathetic approach. Here,
you want to set up the next one, Hiccups?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hiccups is, well, I lived in New York City for 6 years, and I have so many friends and stuff there that like I built a whole community, and that's who I was making like weekly uploads with for a long time, and who I went to college with and made stuff with. And Hiccups married a lot of desires into one project. Desire number one, I knew I wanted to make a movie with my community in New York because I love those people and I miss those people. 2, I love rom-coms. I love rom-coms. Anything from Annie Hall, which is like a more grounded rom-com, to like the most goofy, like Notting Hill, like Hugh Grant kind of stuff. But like everything in between, I just love rom-coms. They're my comfort movies. They're the movies that I could turn on whether or not like I'm feeling up for like, you know, like as much as I'd love to watch some obscure Criterion movie every night, those need a specific type of night, but rom-coms never do. So I'm like, I want to make that for myself and also for anyone who also feels that way, like make a movie for that.
And that's just friend number 1. We're only getting started. We got friend number 2 dropping any day now. Friend number 3 coming out later in the season. You're gonna want to hang tight for that.
Okay.
And last but not least, we got friend number 4. What?
You only have 4 friends.
Yeah, that's a normal, healthy amount of friends to have.
And then the last impetus was Patrick and Hannah, my two of my closest friends in New York. I'm like, Hannah's an incredible actress. I've always wanted her to star in a movie. Patrick's one of my funniest, goofiest friends. I just love like how truly himself he is. Like the character is an exaggeration on himself, but he's still pulling a lot from himself. And I think like he's such a charming, funny like guy, and he wears his like stuff on his sleeve really well, like his emotions on his sleeve and stuff like that. And I think combining those two people, I'm like, what would that look like? Like Hannah, who's a very self-assured woman who ironically I've seen a number of like reviews that think she's like annoying or bitchy in the movie. And I think there's this weird misogynistic thing that happens where if you present a woman as at all confident and self-assured, there will be a subsect of the audience who just hates that character.
Yeah,
you know?
I always think of Breaking Bad when everybody hated Skyler.
Oh, I've never watched it, but is that true? People?
Yeah, no, there was this whole thing where like, you know, she's the wife of this dude who's objectively like ruining their life.
Yeah.
But and so like anytime she puts her foot down, like there was a very vocal part of the fan base who were like, we hate this woman, and it's just like, dude, she's like the victim of this whole show.
Yeah, it's weird to watch. It's weird to see like that those people come out, and it's not that they're wrong. Every opinion has some truth to it. Like maybe there obviously I didn't want both characters to be flawless. They both had like shortcomings, but like it is funny to see like a comment that's like, I can't stand Josephine in this movie, and I'm like, that's so interesting to me because she's in a lot of ways the voice of reason to Patrick's kind of fuckboy insanity in the movie.
Yeah.
But like and she kind of denies him a lot of the typical cliches that a rom-com would give to the fucked up man who's just ruining everything, you know.
And then you've done a number of romantically like themed projects over the years, and you know they've usually been ones centering around you more. With this one, kind of you're in it, but not until the back end. And so featuring these two, did you guys kind of build the story and the characters all together a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. This was like in the weeds, the three of us, which was very fun because like I've never done a trio movie, I don't think. Like I've done a lot of movies where it's me and another person bashing our heads together, you know, like like putting our brains together to make a movie. Dax and me, Drowning in Potential. Eric and I, Hello My Beautiful Creatures. Trent and me, I've done numerous projects where we're kind of this one spearheading it. And I think what was so cool is it like there is this trio, and that lends itself so well to a romance because you're bringing both people's perspective into it, and as a director trying to marry that perspective. And everyone is so creative on my movies. Like my movies allow a lot of room for people to create. You know, they're not just executing my creation. They are creating ideas and characters and moments and bringing people into the movie. Like so many of the cast are Patrick's friends or Hannah's friends that I didn't know before the movie. So the movie would be instrumentally different had I cast 2 different leads. It's not just like if I cast a different friend as Hannah's character, every scene would be the same except the actress would be different. It's like the whole movie would be different. That's what I love about this improv style is it's like Hannah brought her friend Zoe on board. Hannah brought so many locations on board. I'm blanking on other names because whenever you need a name, your brain betrays you. But yeah, Hannah brought so many of her friends on board, and same with Patrick. And it's cool to step back and see this full movie that's like it's so much the 3 of us. Like I'm sort of the person like melding these worlds and creating something cohesive, but they're these people bringing to me all these beautiful ideas and things and feelings. The funny thing is they wound up together. Patrick and Hannah are actually a couple now because of that movie. And they've been together for, I think, at this point, almost a year. Like, I think it would actually be like 10 months.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they were 2 completely separate friends of mine who never met each other, and through doing a rom-com together, they they found something. So they're dating. That's kind of really special to see. And it's also funny to see the comments that say, oh, they don't have chemistry. Because I'm like, oh, they're dating, which is funny. But I think they have their own kind of chemistry in this movie.
Did they tell you that after you had like made it back home?
They told me, I think I just figured it out slowly. They were hanging out still and seeing each other. And then Patrick's like, yeah, I'm still seeing her. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
That's so great. So, okay, hard pivot into the Diarrhea Brothers Save the Day.
Yeah.
You want to,
Diarrhea Brothers took over my life for a month and a half. Because I released Hiccups and I already had shot the Dubai movie, the Love Celeste movie.
Oh, really?
Okay. It was already shot. But then I'm like, I want to make this stupid, dumb comedy. Like, me, Alex Martins, and Trent ran a page for a long time called Good Long P, which was our worst like sense of humor is being given too much space to exist. And like it was just like us having no barometer for quality for ourselves. Like Good Long P was like, fuck quality, let's just do quantity, let's just do crazy shit, let's make the dumbest movie ever, Good Long P the movie, which was sort of the send-off for the time being to the project. But I knew, I've been spending all year making stuff that's very grounded and serious. I think every movie until that point was funny. Like every movie has so much comedy. I think levity is just part of my life. I'm always gonna include comedy. But I'm like, it's about time. Like I've done so many weekly shorts that are just straight up stupid or funny. And I'm like, it's about time I just like make my spoof movie, my stupid, like beginning to end, not a serious bone in its body sort of movie.
Hey guys, there wouldn't happen to be diarrhea in those barrels, would there?
Yep, 400 pounds of diarrhea filled to the brim, sir.
You wouldn't happen to have delivered like 8 of those to St. Mary's Intensive Care Unit this weekend?
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
Friday night we did that.
Yes,
sir. Yep.
Okay, well that was my stepmother's room. Okay, my sickly stepmother.
You see, Winston, when we inquire with the customer where they want their barrels of diarrhea, that could be anywhere.
Even next to somebody's dying mother.
You got it. Yeah. It's all part of shit.
No.
Step 3.
Don't make this a teachable moment.
Send our regards to your stepmom. And so I flew Alex out, and Mason, who's a great friend of mine who used to make a lot of stuff with me in New York, who lives in Kentucky these days. I knew I wanted to make a movie with him, so I was like, well, let's just throw him into the diarrhea movie. So I was like, you want to fly out for this? And he's like, yeah. And I flew him out, and it was a long shoot. It's other than Hello My Beautiful Creatures, it is the biggest movie of the project. It is like, I think 18 days of shooting and like just like massive, like I think it has like 30 locations and it's just like tons of actors. We got like a special effects makeup. We got like these giant barrels. Alex and I had to drive like an hour and a half outside of LA to pick up these old wine barrels. And it started as a bad joke. The movie started as like Alex was visiting one time and leaving. He's like, guys, I'm going to miss you. And I'm going to feel so like uninspired on my own. He's like, give me a video idea to make. And we're like, do Diarrhea Delivery Men. And he's like, I'm not making a Diarrhea Delivery Men. And we're like, you should do it. And he's like, okay, maybe. And he never made it. So then when it came to us making this stupid comedy together, I'm like, guys, this is the time for us to do Diarrhea Delivery Men. But we don't just do it as a short. We do it as a feature-length, fully committed movie. And no one said no to that. And it was like obviously no-brainer.
Yeah, when you posted it, I got very excited because I know that while you're already, very sentimental filmmaker on one end, like I'm aware of this chaotic other side of the things you do.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, this is gonna be a movie with diarrhea in the name. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna I was like, I felt confident about this one sticking the landing.
Yeah.
I wrote this down. I saw that like the top comment on YouTube was, this concept is made funnier by the fact it's actually a good movie.
Yeah. Which was left by the creator of Charlie the Unicorn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he loved that comment.
Wow.
And he makes animated features himself on YouTube, which is very cool.
So I was curious. So this one, like, despite how silly it is also extremely like structured with story, and like you said, there's like 30 locations.
Yeah.
So how were you? And also, you have like costumes. You have a decal on your car.
Yeah.
There's a mascot, and then the barrels. So how far ahead of time were you guys contriving stuff before filming? This seems like it needed planning.
We knew we were going to be Diarrhea Delivery Men. I brought my friend Seth on board, who was an angel and did so much for the movie. He built the mascot costume. He made the patches that we wear for the whole movie. We're literally start to end in those costumes, which is so funny. And yeah, so we brought Seth on board, but like I think the day Alex showed up, we were still putting the patches together. So it wasn't too much ahead of time that we had everything ready to go. But we were like building the costumes, trying them on first day. There's actually, this is an announcement perhaps for people who see this, but there's a full behind the scenes documentary we shot about making Diarrhea Brothers. Because it's the only movie of the year that I had the foresight to record the entire behind the scenes. So every scene, everything we shot had this camera rolling and more. So maybe someday if I find the energy and time, I'll throw that together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we definitely had the idea of what we might look like, our costumes matching. We knew, big spoiler, we knew a certain famous Hollywood monster would make an appearance just because we thought it was the stupidest idea in the world to bring him into this.
Yeah.
But we had so much fun just sort of spitballing like we always do. It's not structured at all. Like I did a weird thing that I had never tried, just to try to throw something at the wall. And the first night we were all together, me, Trent, Alex, and Mason, we sat on a couch, and that's on this camera too. And we just improv dialogue for 2 hours, like what the story might be, kind of, because that's how we did Good Long P, the movie. That was just improvised, audio. And so we kind of did the same thing for Diarrhea Brothers, and a few of the things stuck, like Mason having this like problem with women, like lack of confidence, and us being the worst people to help him with it. Like that was all part of that improv. Seth's like reaming us out as our boss, and us like saying like, oh, it's a shy job, like no taking the money, shit job, a shy job, like stuff like that came from that improv. So it was kind of a useful step that I haven't done since, but it'd be fun to maybe try again. But yeah, the long-winded answer as always.
Oh no, that's fine. The Bechdel test you built into the movie also. I watched this with my friend Dylan, and he's been the one doing comedy shorts with me, and like we were laughing so hard at this because I feel like there's been such a departure from like Austin Powers type movies, or even like Adam McKay and Judd Apatow type movies. It's like now we just kind of have like action movies pretending to be comedies with like Jumanji and stuff like that. And so it was fun seeing such a just off the wall crazy thing.
It is weird. I've watched, I think Drew Gooden just put a video about all the SNL movies, and he talked about that too, how like where did the comedies go? They all sort of, it went extinct for some reason. And I think it's because like a comedy is that sort of middle budget movie that Hollywood has stopped making.
Yeah.
You know, they either like herald like a movie like Nora, which was like independently produced and then brought into the system. They're either like, this is the best thing ever, or they like just have their tentpole $200-300 million movies at this point. And they sort of let that middle ground die because like, you know, like a Naked Gun movie has a lot of props and set design and stuff that does cost money, and they're just not seeing the dollar signs in that anymore. And
yeah, I feel like the most recent thing I can think of was like the Jump Street movies, as far as being a big cultural moment where it was like universally liked and it was just kind of silly the whole way through.
Yeah.
You know, and it had like, I know Channing Tatum before that wasn't associated with being a comedy actor, but he killed it, and Jonah Hill obviously is classic, but I feel like since then it's just like a lot of like non-comedy actors in like action franchise movies, but then it's like branded as a comedy.
Yeah, like Thor and like Guardians of the Galaxy are about as funny as you'll get. And I don't know what happened. It's very sad. I think we've also lost the rom-com. I've sort of lamented about that a bit.
Yeah.
I think like you'll see like the Sydney Sweeney one that just came out, but they all veer so much to like this sappy, saccharine romance rather than like a really like goofy romance that still hits those beats. Like Annie Hall has so many incredibly goofy, silly scenes, but it's still so emotional by the end. Same with When Harry Met Sally. Same with like you know, it's like we lost the rom-com and we lost the stupid comedy. And maybe those horrible spoofs we got killed them. The Vampires Suck, epic movie, date movie. Maybe those guys sort of shot them in the foot by making really bad ones and losing the public's faith. But like, it's sad. And I think that's the biggest sentiment that I saw about Diarrhea Brothers that I was really happy to see, is that like people are like finally just a comedy again, you know? Which I think in retrospect, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God I used some of this time and money to make something so big and stupid.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, I had one last comment about it too. I loved Ben's character in it, because watching the film, I think me and Dylan, like the biggest thing we were kind of wondering as it was starting was like, is this going to take place in a world where everyone thinks this is normal?
Yeah.
Or are people horrified by this?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of characters who do think it's normal, but then Ben like undoes that.
Yeah.
I like that there's not a consistency.
Yeah. I think it was important. One, I don't like gross out humor at all. Like I like it done tastefully and in a like well executed way, but like I never wanted to see the diarrhea. Like I wanted to make a diarrhea movie but not have like a bunch of scenes of people getting covered in shit and shits everywhere. Like I wanted to do the diarrhea movie without that element that you'd expect. And we also wanted the diarrhea to pretty well be interchangeable with any good or service. But like kind of calling and this is where I got a little deep. I got interviewed by somebody writing a paper about Diarrhea Brothers, which is so funny. And I got a little deep about it. I'm like, I guess this is sort of like mocking capitalism in a way, and how like useless a lot of the products were sold, and all these people who have to waste their lives working for these companies shelling these products. Like it's sort of like this blindly optimistic version of that, where these guys are so ecstatic to be selling diarrhea even though it's literal shit, and they go to their work every day. It's kind of like capitalism would love the Diarrhea Brothers, you know, like the system of capitalism would love these guys who are just so willing to like shill shit every day with a big smile on their face, blissfully ignoring the horrors around them and the damage that the system is causing. I think if there's a meta textual thesis of the movie that emerged, like I never like planned these movies like let's make this takedown of capitalism, but I think like these themes emerge organically just because storytelling is ripe for themes to grow. And I think it is sort of like a funny takedown of like the American dream in a way, if like you just accepted it with a shit-eating grin, literally.
Yeah, you can make this sequel to Diarrhea Brothers versus Communism.
Yeah. Well, the tentative title that we decided against because it spoiled. I guess I'll spoil it here now. We wanted to call it the Diarrhea Brothers versus Frankenstein, just giving it that classic movie title. But we're like, oh, this like he doesn't show up till like 50 minutes in, and we're like, we don't want to step on that reveal. Yeah. But it would be a real. So we just call it the Diarrhea Brothers Save the Day.
Yeah,
even though I don't even know if they do.
The reveal's good because I feel like now we have this modern movie thing because of the MCU where like a character steps in a doorway and everybody's like, who is it? Who is it? You know, and it's supposed to add up. And in this, like me and Dylan are like, it's Frankenstein, as if it should be.
Yeah. It's gotta be Frank. Who else?
Yeah.
Because they fucked up. I don't even know what they did wrong. Like they had a runaway
sound. I think
like a runaway diarrhea barrel like smashed his house up a little bit, which was very abstract. Because that was a stop motion scene. I actually stop motioned the diarrhea barrel and like cut it out in Photoshop and had it.
Oh, you know what? I was gonna move on, but I just gotta say again. So Alex like stole the show with the fucking somersault he did.
Yeah.
We were laughing so hard at that. We had to rewind. And then also at the beginning when you guys meet Mason and that like weird voice.
Sucking your titties.
And then he just goes, I'm just fucking with you, bro.
Yeah, just like, so Alex has like this video that I think is one of the funniest videos on YouTube called Using Type C Humor in Group A. It's something he invented where Type C humor is this humor that's so fucked that only your childhood best friend would get like where you're coming from. Yeah. And using it in front of the wrong people is so funny. And it's funny, I saw one review that was like taking offense to that ongoing joke because they thought he was doing like an Asian accent, and I'm like, what Asian accent do you think he's doing? Because he's like, oh, mommy, you know, he's just like screaming and shouting. But it was funny because I'm like, what?
Yeah, to me it was just like you're alone in your car making the most nonsense sounds ever, but in front of people, and it was so
and not
good.
having the social awareness to not do that.
Yeah.
But we just knew every time he did it, he had to reset hard to normal. Like, because those are the funniest laughs in the movies to me when he does the stupid voice and I'm just fucking with you, man. Just like, or when he like distracts Frankenstein, he's like, hey, Frankenstein. Oh, Milky Mom. And then he just goes, go guys, go, we gotta. Like as if he did anything. Alex cracks me up so much. He's so good in that.
He's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, Loves. See, I knew we were going to talk about that one the most.
Yeah.
So Love Celeste, you filmed in Dubai. Yeah, so what's that all about?
Love Celeste was a long overdue movie collaboration between me and Dan Lotz and Zaid Aftab. Zaid is a filmmaker who lives in Dubai, and he made a movie during quarantine called The Printer and the Boy, which is a very beautiful, like, one-man movie. He made it himself during quarantine, and he was like 21 at the time, and he started the movie with a dedication that said, like, thank you, Joel, for showing me I can make movies. And this is before I had, like, an audience the size I do. It was a very small, tight-knit group of filmmakers all kind of just watching each other's stuff. So it really moved me a lot to see that dedication to me. And since then, I've been keeping up. He's made a number of features since, and we've been keeping in touch. And then also Dan Lotz is this also kind of crazy filmmaker who's made like 30 features himself that are all on his YouTube. And yeah, we've always just been mutual admirers, and I've done, like Eric, Hello My Beautiful Creatures, I've also visited Dan and made a couple shorts, but it felt like we're these two guys who like champion this sort of independent online feature filmmaking, and it felt like we needed to make a movie together.
It is.
Does it ever get old?
No, it doesn't. You just get used to it.
You okay there, buddy?
You got it right in his face.
It's water vapor. Come on.
I'm just joking. But,
It's just water.
I just don't like smoking, so yeah.
Open first.
Yeah.
Would you like to do the honors, Raul?
Okay.
And making one with Zaid, I pitched to Dan. I'm like, let's go to a foreign country. I'm like, I haven't planned or done any of these movies in a foreign country. What if we went to Europe? What if we went here? And then by total coincidence, Zaid reached out to me, said he watched Hello, My Beautiful Creatures, and he's like, that was awesome. And he's like, it was much needed. I got laid off from my job, so I'm a little like out of work right now. So I kind of had this thought. I'm like, wait, like, what if we went to Zaid in Dubai? Because Zaid can't easily come to the States because of visas and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if we're going to a foreign country, let's go make a movie with Zaid because we both know him and his films. So it was this beautiful marriage of the three of us where we went out and visited Zaid, stayed out at an Airbnb, and we're just like, hey, like, we're three feature filmmakers. Let's like make a movie together. What could go wrong? And it's sort of another movie about grief. It blatantly is another movie about grief, but it sort of pairs well with It Just Takes Time, but it's this surreal, strange opposite to it in a lot of ways. It Just Takes Time is, like I said, about this quiet sort of grief, and Love, Celeste is sort of about like a grief, a shared grief that you're resisting, and then this process of accepting your grief and those that you don't feel maybe deserve the grief as much as you, or grief is something we sort of become possessive of at times, where we're like, oh, we're the saddest, I'm the most sad about this, I was the closest to this, and I think it can be a bit of a competition even if we're not consciously acknowledging that. And I think, and Dan came to me with this idea, like, what if these three guys all dated the same girl, and they had to meet up for some reason. Like, we didn't know if she was dead yet. We didn't know this or that, but we knew like these three guys who all dated the same girl. I'm like, oh, that's so good for attention. Like that's like, dudes are so possessive, dudes are so jealous. It's like, put three guys who dated the same girl who don't have any other connection to each other in a room together. What's that like? And then it's like centering that on grief, and you don't really find out till like 20 minutes into the movie that she died. It feels a bit like this abstract idea, because so the setup of the movie is me and Dan come to Dubai, Zaid is already there, and we're these three guys who are getting these notes from a mysterious woman named Celeste to do these quests. And I think as the movie unfolds, you kind of realize these quests are kind of just a simple, if kind of cutesy game to like sort of share in your grief with somebody who you might not expect to share in your grief with, like somebody who, I think even like, it doesn't even have to be a relationship. There's times where like a family member dies and it's like, like you have an estranged uncle who you never talked to, and suddenly you're sharing that with him, and there is a bit of a resentment there. It's like, where were you? Like, you don't know him like I knew him, that sort of feeling. And that's where Love, Celeste came from, and is another kind of movie about grief, and it kind of stages it in a very surreal way. But I am really happy with that movie. Mikey did another beautiful score for it. Very cool Dubai influenced score, like Middle Eastern sort of instrumentation.
When did you guys kind of land on filming it like mostly in the hotel room and then just kind of out in the middle of nowhere? When it started, I was wondering if you guys were going to go out in cities and kind of show Dubai more, but it was very remote.
Yeah, it is very remote. I think that's something we were cognizant of. We were like, so there's a couple production logistical reasons for that. It's that we went in August, hot as hell. It's 110, 120 degrees outside. Yeah. Like literally, and it's not like dry heat, it's like humid, thick air. You walk outside, sweat immediately. So it's brutal, but like, so that was a big production reason where like, okay, we could center a lot of this And in our heads, we're like, if we make this 60-40, like 60% in this hotel, 40% outside, we think that'll be enough. You know, we think like, because we didn't want it to feel like a chamber piece entirely. I think like that hotel we had did feel very like impersonal. It felt like this like place we were all just meeting up. And I think that lent itself really well to these strangers trying to open up and be vulnerable to each other, because it feels like such a kind of closed off space.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was like, it's going to be hot. Let's set a couple particular scenes in the desert because that's a super unique location. Let's film to the best of our ability outside, but like Dubai has some strict filming things where they act like, in the States, never in my life have I gotten a permit. Like, yeah, I could film anywhere, and as I'm not like I don't have a giant boom pole, I don't have lights set up, so as long as you run and gun, you could get away with filming anywhere in the States, as long as it's not like a private business or something. But in Dubai, like immediately some security saw us and they're like, hey, do you have a permit? So we actually wound up getting a permit to film specifically around our hotel. There's like there's a lot of shots on this like weird overlook. The movie ends on that, spoilers, but like that's like near our hotel. So we had a permit to shoot there, and we sort of just guerrilla styled it in the desert. We didn't get any permits there, but like
when you guys filmed in the back of that boat, did you just kind of have the dude go in circles? I was wondering how long it took to do all that.
So yeah, that was the interesting thing, because we had to build the story in a way around that production limitation, because we knew we could only film so much outside for health safety reasons of heat, and also just like the restrictions of being in Dubai. And a lot of Dubai is a ghost town. There's definitely more populated areas, but like the resort like area we were staying is like a ghost town. There's like not people walking around really. And I think just embracing that and leaning into that sort of like, we kind of feel like we're in purgatory throughout the movie. It feels like a bit of a purgatorial space. And I think embracing that was valuable, as well as essential to the story, embracing that sort of isolatedness rather than like, oh, this is a tourist video for Dubai. This isn't going to be that, you know? Yeah.
So the next one, the 9th movie, is your big meta movie where you're playing yourself and your friends are playing themselves. Yeah, you want to set up I have a lot of questions about this one, honestly. Yeah, you want to set up the plot?
So this movie is about me and my friends going to like renting a cabin for the weekend to celebrate the release of my latest movie, and I screen it for them, and they are lukewarm to it. It's not a very warm reaction, and people start calling into question this whole 12 movie ideas. The first scene of the movie is my friend Chad, sort of interrogating me, like, why even do this, you know? And like me sort of stumbling to give like a proper answer.
Is this a bit? This is a joke, right?
Car's a classic. Last night, I showed you guys my latest movie, and safe to say some of you guys didn't receive it very warmly.
It was okay.
It was fine. It was fine.
Joel, it was fine.
And some of you, excuse me, called into question the ways I make movies.
I mean, you said you wanted honest feedback. You said don't hold your punches. Like.
Yeah, but like in the confines of what I do, you were
so wait,
like,
what's happening? Where are our phones? Where are our keys? What's going on?
Because I think that as much as you'd like to have a clarity on your artistic things you do, sometimes it's just a gut feeling you can't explain. And yeah, it's a movie just dissecting that and kind of poking fun at my haters, if I had them. I think I have like a handful of people who really, really take issue with the way I make movies. I don't know why. Just ignore my movies if you're going to get that angry. But like, I think like poking fun at these people who act like my production method and ideologies are some affront to filmmaking, and then like tearing apart like the typical student film set that is always a nightmare and has too many cooks. Like so many shots are just like a horde of like 12 people gathered around a camera and nothing happening.
Yeah.
And I think I've experienced that a lot. And I don't think that's exclusive to student films. When I see traditional sets, I kind of feel that way too. There's a lot of bloat and waste. And as much as I'd love to say this is like the deepest, most purposeful movie, I think it's also just like an excuse to have fun. Me and my friends went away for the weekend and we wanted to make each other laugh. Like I wanted this to be like, this is sort of a Trojan horse. You start the movie thinking you're about to get this introspective look at, peel back the curtain on my brain and see what Joel is thinking about this 12 movie project, but then it turns into a farce very fast. And it's the second movie of the year behind Diarrhea Brothers that's just a full-blown comedy.
I think this was probably the hardest I laughed like all year.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact joke, but like I watched this alone at my desk. I tried to watch it with a friend but didn't get a chance. And so like structurally you do the thing where they all wake up, you're missing, their phones are missing, and you're kind of like a jigsaw kind of game master telling them to make a movie in 48 hours or else, essentially. Yeah. And so I think it, like, using just movie brain, like you would assume like, okay, they're gonna make a movie now and learn the difficulty that you put yourself through, but then like they step outside and just evaporate from existence very painfully. And that excited me so much because it was all like, you guys are good at improv, so it was already like goofy and fun enough to be enjoyable, but that took it over the edge so much. And I love that by the end, like when it's time for you to kind of say the moral of everything, you're just vindictive and just hurting them for fun.
And it's sort of like, once again I step in and you're like, oh, here's the preachy moment where Joel's gonna get on a soapbox about filmmaking. It's like, no, he's just an asshole. It's like, fuck you. It's like, fuck you for not liking my work. Because I think sometimes as an artist you feel that way. It's just like, why do I give a shit about what you say? And you want to be this evil version of yourself that is just vindictive and vengeful. And I think like it's just fun to play that, even if it's not really how I feel. It's a fun emotion to lean into. And it ends on the most iconic ending of the year. When we thought of that, we were dying laughing. So
fuck it, Trent.
Turning Trent into a cube. I think I've seen a lot of people sort of dissect that in a way that I appreciate. People are like, oh, fuck it, Trent Cube is fuck you, I'm the god of my work. Why should I listen to what you have to say? Which is like kind of, if there is a thesis of the movie, probably the thesis of that. But it's just fun. It's ultimately just a fun romp. And everyone was cracking me up. It was shot in 2 days, which is like meta because they have 2 days to shoot a movie. And like they're like, you can't shoot a movie in 2 days. But that one, like, I think something was in the air because everyone was just so funny. Like Ryan, Ben, Lars, Trent, Dead Trent. like
Dead Trent was so good.
I think Lars emerges to me as the star of that movie because he's so funny. He plays like a Nimrod, so just an idiot who doesn't understand anything.
He wants to be an iconic angry actor.
I want to be a niche angry actor. Put that down. And his whole idea is just put that down.
When he just punches him to death immediately.
One of my favorite jokes of the movie is just that everyone else gets evaporated, but Trent dies violent. And for some reason they're keeping his body around.
They could have just thrown it out. I also like at the end too. They're like, "Why? What about Trent? He's nice to you. He's like the one guy that's nice to you." And you cube him.
Just vengefulness. And there is like a warning against that hate too. Like I am the villain. As like leading into that side of yourself, it's a very hollow payoff. Like getting that I told you so is only so worth it.
Just to ask about the making of this, so I know I've been asking you a lot about like how you guys kind of come up with story as you go. In this case, like this is like 14 people. So how did you manage just like the not getting like staying focused, I guess.
So this one I'm largely behind the camera. The movies where I'm really behind the camera, I think I could really take a step back and wrangle everyone, you know, because this one was daunting, most daunting of all, microphones. Like editing this, like this is the only movie of the year I had help editing, and I did that purely logistically because I saw that I had like 2 months left, and I'm like, I have 5 movies to make. So Ben Ball helped me edit. He did the whole rough cut of the movie, and I just took it over the finish line. But like, yeah, 12 audio layers because everyone's loved with a microphone. It's just such a nightmare to navigate that timeline.
Yeah. Do you own 12 lavs, or did you just do a big rental?
I own 6, and I had all my friends who owned them bring them. So
Okay.
no rental, but like, yeah, I had friends bring them.
Okay, that was I was rewatching and I was like, wait, how is everybody mic'd?
Yeah, it was sort of a nightmare every time. Like setting up took like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
when we took breaks, but
was this cabin trip like with the express purpose of making this movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I invited everyone. I'm like, hey guys, I'm getting this cabin. Let's like shoot a movie in a weekend. And I think it was a much needed movie. I think like I have this group of friends in LA that's so funny and talented and so big that it's hard to get everyone in a movie.
Yeah.
And like I did like Anyone Else But Me and Diarrhea Brothers in LA. Those are like the 2 LA movies, which in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that's impressive that I went so many places to shoot these movies. But at that point, it was the 2 LA movies. And then I'm like, Ryan hasn't really had a chance to shine. Ben, a little bit in Diarrhea Brothers, but Lars especially. Like, Lars is so funny. And I'm like, I have all these friends that like, you know, I know we're just funny and I know we crack each other up, so let's just go to a cabin and do a quick movie. Because I needed a quick movie at that point, and I needed to shoot something because I think I was in the midst of editing Diarrhea Brothers, or maybe I was in the midst of editing Love, Celeste. No, I think Diarrhea Brothers. And I was like, let's take a weekend off of editing and shoot another movie so I know I have some in my pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next one, a little film about friendship. So this kind of seems like your biggest like bread and butter. You can probably just do it with the least amount of effort.
I could do it in my sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely my bread and butter. This is where I was so going into December. Love, Celeste was just finishing. Ben was helping me edit the 9th movie, so that was getting close. But I was looking at like, okay, I still have 3 movies. And I knew these last 3 had to be smartly conceptualized as simple. Like, I'm not going to go out with a bang. I did my bang in April with Hello, My Beautiful Creatures. Would have been a great finale, but I think it was too risky to leave something that big to the finish line. So I'm like, I need to make 3 movies. Let's do 3 quick, down and dirty, simple ones that still feel purposeful. And the most obvious idea that came to my mind is like, let's do Joel and Trent. And there's one bed.
Yeah, well, you can sleep with me on the bed. That's wicked smart. What?
Dude,
what do you mean?
I am not sleeping with you, bro.
Oh, yeah, no, we can. Thank God there's all those pillows. We can build a wall of pillows between us.
Yeah, we can put all the pillows between us so our butts don't touch and our PPs don't touch.
Exactly. I don't know what your butt is capable of.
Dude, no, that might not even be enough. Let me show you. Come.
Okay.
You know, like Trent is the person who, you know, I was living with, not living with, but living in the same town as in Massachusetts when my channel took off, and he was like the face, the other face. It was me and Trent. He was in all my videos. He was in my animations. So Trent and I know how to just exist on camera together. We did the film I mentioned in here, Things Could Always Be Worse, and that was just Joel and Trent talking. So I'm like, what if we took that into the real world, like out of the kind of confines of a room? And I think it gave it a little less direction, like us being stuck in the room gave that an overarching plot, whereas like us just going on weekend getaway is very like, it's like a hangout movie. It's very much just like a chill naturalism slice of life of me and my friend going away. But it was the first time of the year I was able to authentically be me, as authentic as you can be on camera. It was obviously fictional, but like still very much just us talking and making each other laugh. So there's a documentary element to it. But yeah, I think just getting away for the weekend and making a movie with Trent felt like the like gimme of all gimmes while still knowing I'd make something I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And I think I got to bring back, I'm having a hard time remembering. Yeah, I did. Did I? Is that 4-3? I think it's 4-3.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I can look it up.
I was gonna say, because like I sort of did this funny thing where I shot anyone else but me in 4-3, and in retrospect, yeah, it's 4-3.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, anyone else but me felt sort of arbitrarily 4-3. I like that I did it that way. I composed stuff that way, so it works. But like that one could have worked 16:9. But like 4-3, I really like for like an intimate character piece. It feels like an old, like how TV was like 4:3 when we were kids. It feels like you're just like working with on such a small scale. And I going back to 4-3, I kind of got sick of it after anyone else but me, and I didn't do it for the rest of the year until Trent and I got away. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to this. I like it kept things fresh, and it also just composes really well on like faces, and I knew this was all just conversation.
Thematically, at the end of the movie, it's kind of emotional, and you talk about like the difficulty you have with living here because you have so many friends, but then also like you say Los Angeles is a city you openly dislike.
Yeah.
And I know you've been here for a few years, like longer than you originally pictured. How are you doing with that, I guess?
I am doing okay. I like my friends enough that I could stomach. Who knows how long I'll be here. I could stomach another 3 years. I could stomach another like 10 years. I don't know. With that said, I am like thinking of the world. I'm thinking of like all the time, like in the movie, I brought it up because I'm like, oh, this is a real feeling I wrestle with often. Let's share it. And if anyone can relate to this sort of homeless feeling, like lacking a home, not having a place that feels like home. Mm-hmm. If anyone can relate to that, it might help them, I guess. But like, I think about the world. I think about like, man, am I not going to spend 5 years in France? Like that'd be awesome. Am I not going to be like, and not many people get that freedom, which I know is sad. And a lot of people do just wind up stuck somewhere because they have to be there. But I'm like, man, I look at the world. I'm like, man, like New York was awesome. Will I go back there? Like, am I going to buy a house? Am I going to buy that in like a tiny neck of the woods town that I'd actually get banged for my buck and not scammed like LA? Like I can't buy a house in LA. Firstly, I can't afford it. Secondly, I would get nothing for my money. But yeah, it's a thing I wrestle with a lot, and probably the thing I wanted to come away with that movie feeling like I shared a part of myself. I wanted to be honest about that feeling because Trent is this element that I brought into this world also, where he and I are both from small town in Massachusetts, and I flew him out here and he wound up living here too. He's been here for 3 years also. Yeah. And like, I think he loves it here. I love it too in a lot of ways, but the city itself does not feel warm. And it's like, it'd be nice if your whole life was warm rather than just the people, which it feels like a sort of first world problem to like be like, man, I just have too many friends, but but it's like I do love my friends, but yeah.
Yeah. The next film, Your Point Girl with Dev Lemons, it's iPhone vertical whole movie, and it starts off like kind of as a traditional TikTok, but then it just like keeps going.
And I wound up posting it on TikTok because I thought that'd be really funny if people were watching it. Blissfully unaware they're about to start a movie.
I saw a lot of comments of people really enjoying it and being like, how is this so long? And I don't know if it was them like not knowing that you were able to upload such a long video, or if they were like, wait, I'm still watching it.
People want you pointing at their stuff.
I did point at it. It was just like, it wasn't like my normal one. It was just like...
But it was just a split second in a look at my new house life update video. If you want to make a video like that and have it be your Nilla Wafers video, I want you pointing, this is my bathroom. The wafers are on the toilet. This is my bedroom. Wafers are on the bed. This is my hot tub. Wafers are sitting on a little float in the water.
It's gonna get more people to want them if like I'm just casually like, oh, and I look
subliminal
at these,
messaging.
Yeah, right. Because like I don't know, if I'm in the store and I see them, like I just want them. So.
Sure.
But like if like every aisle had Nilla wafers, I'd be like, what the fuck is like wrong with you guys?
I think that movie tackled a very specific thought I've always had, and it's that the thought that, one, I preach that you can shoot on your iPhone. It's about time I just shoot on my iPhone and make a movie.
Yeah.
Two, a lot of people who shoot on their iPhones do it in such a lazy, opposite of lazy, but lazy conceptually way, where like Steven Soderbergh, what was that movie he did, the horror movie? He did a couple movies on iPhone. And like you see behind the scenes and they're holding a gimbal and they have all these like camera lights. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you're not shooting on an iPhone. You're using an iPhone as your film, your cinema camera. You know, you're shooting it on a flat profile and an app on 4K, and it's like
it kind of makes the whole like shot on iPhone thing like a marketing gimmick to me, because if every single element of the work around it is the same as normal, like normal Hollywood filmmaking, I'm like, what's like using a phone seems kind of arbitrary at that point.
Yeah. And I think there's such a huge aversion to vertical. Less so nowadays because we've been brainwashed to like it. Not brainwashed, that makes it sound bad, but like we've been so used to our algorithms, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram being these vertical videos. But there was a huge aversion for a long time on the internet where like people would lose their shit if something was shot vertically. You know, like Redditors would be like, kill the cameraman. He's holding it vertical. And you know, even if it was just a viral video of somebody yelling in public, they'd be like, "Why is this vertical?" And nowadays we've gotten so used to it, and it is kind of how we're engaging with most content. You know, to my great shame, I get lost in the scrolls, and like it's mainly YouTube Shorts or something, and all my content is 9:16, not 16:9, and I'm like, this is such an accurate depiction of the world as it is now. And I think one of the most interesting things you could do as a filmmaker is capture the world as it is now. Because like I was watching Panic in Needle Park, which is like a 70s Al Pacino New York movie. And I was just like, man, this feels like a different world. This is like a fantasy land. Like New York doesn't feel real in this movie. But then you realize to them at the time, they were just capturing life as they knew it and the world as they knew it. So it's like making these documents fictionalized, but also kind of very real documents of the world as you know it. I'm like, what better way to do that than to capture like this social media influencer boom that is all being presented in 9:16 to our eyes every day. Yeah.
And thematically, I liked that like she was kind of one of these people that clearly got mega viral and rich from doing a extremely simplistic thing that kind of intrinsically doesn't even really have value. She just points at things. She's essentially like the embodiment of like the YouTube soy-faced thumbnail, you know? And I like that she herself is kind of having qualms about what her life means and if she could do something more interesting like making music. And I like how the other characters, like clearly they're like bought in on her enough to be her team because they can make money off of her, but then her wanting to do something that rocks that boat, they're all like, what are you talking about? You're this, and then it kind of flips to where they're almost demeaning. They're like, no, you need to like realize you're not that you're special enough to make us money, but not to like do something bigger than that.
Yeah. I think a huge thing that the movie could have done wrong is make Devon's character the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
Like if she was just like this person who sucked, and I think her being a really good singer helped that a lot. It's like, it'd be funny if, like it'd be so obvious but funny to just have somebody be like, I want to become a musician, and they suck at it. But it's like interesting that she's good at it. It's like she's good and different and unique, and it's like, okay, that's actually not where I thought this movie was going. So, and I think one thing the internet sucks at is empathy. Sucks really, really hard. And like I think a lot of people drew the connection directly. It wasn't as direct in my head, but to Haktua Girl. And like somebody who got famous for nothing and then like sort of like went through their 15 minutes of fame and got raked over the coals. And like I think like there's no empathy for somebody like that because they're like, oh, she didn't deserve it in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's like, what would you do in this situation? You don't really have a particular skill set that lends itself to internet, but you're also in this capitalist machine, and you have been handed the lottery. You've been handed a winning ticket to the lottery to leave your job and try to make something of this 15 minutes of fame. And then like any little slip up makes you a horrible person. It's like, oh God, she did a crypto scam, or maybe she did, or people she was around did it. I don't know the specifics, but I'm like, there's worse things in this world than people trying to do something, like trying to do something that they're handed and doing it wrong. Like I don't think she's like, somebody who deserves like the attention she got, obviously, because we are in an attention economy, as much as that is like a buzzword. But like, she obviously got more than her fair share, perhaps, but she also got a lot of hate, and then we're in a hate economy too, and people love sharing that around. And I'm just like, at that point, just move on. If you assess this person to be morally not worth your time, then don't give them your time. And I think like that's what exploring this character was to me. It was like, here's somebody who a lot of people would just kind of be like jealous of and be like, well, she's talentless and she has a moment. But I was like, this is a real person. Like, they're kind of envisioning Hawk Tour girls or somebody like that's days that they're not on camera. It's like them talking to their friends and navigating this clusterfuck of fame. And it's like, it's going to be a mess, and they're going to do it wrong. And that's like part of life. And I think I think that movie stemmed from that for me.
Yeah, I'll give her the dignity of her real name, Haley Welch.
Yeah, Haley Welch.
And then for Dev, I found her years ago just from some YouTube video talking about music theory, and she was very funny, and I like art and stuff, and I was like, cool, yeah, I'll subscribe to this. And then she wound up posting her own music, and her song One Whole Me was like my favorite song of the year a few years ago. And so I knew her to be like very funny, and then when she wound up in your whole world, I was like, it felt so natural, and I was like, yeah, I guess I haven't really seen her like do like acting, but this is just kind of pretty seamless. So yeah,
no, she definitely is like best of both worlds in terms of being like a very funny like personality that you just want to watch be goofy and have fun, but she's also a very talented, introspective artist. And I think that's kind of what she was able to pull from the character, because there's people who know her for one thing, but she's a very multifaceted person. And I think looking at like the movie from a distance, I think my proudest thing is just like, it was all shot in a day. The expense was the location. We rented this mansion for a day. That was the main expense. And it uses this format that most people would attribute to valueless content, and trying to make it valuable, or trying to find the value beneath this content we see every day. Yeah.
And then, one more film, Coming Home. You want to just talk about what this means to you?
Yeah, Coming Home was sort of the end of the year full circle movie, where I started the movie with a fictional account about a guy who's away from home and needs to learn to come home to his mom. And life is a process of coming home to your parents and accepting that as much as you might want to be an independent adult, you inevitably have this draw to the family unit, this draw to whatever your family unit might be. And I think like the whole year was my Caleb's hero's journey, and Coming Home is that last scene where we see Caleb swallow his pride and say hi to his mom, and go back to the basics. And I think I went to Nova Scotia to visit my mom and documented that process, and she's like house hunting there, looking for a new house, and living with her my grandfather, her father, who's an old gentleman. And we lost my grandmother last year or the year before, so he's alone, and my mom wanted to be with him. So it was a very emotionally charged movie in a lot of ways, and I think Coming Home was the only, like, I found out afterwards there's like 50 movies called Coming Home, because when I was trying to find it on Letterboxd, I'm like, oh god, I just gave this the most generic name. But it's the only name that made sense to me, because it's like everyone's coming home in that movie. You know, she's coming home to her hometown and her family, and I'm coming home to visit, and what is home? And like the Trent movie really tackles with this lack of home, and then Coming Home is maybe like this idea that home is everywhere, and home is places, home is people, home is feelings, home is music.
Want your hot chocolate?
I'll drink it after.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we are.
Your new home.
This is it.
It's so nice.
It's gonna be really nice.
Big hug.
Thank you.
Oh. And my mom, yeah, she's somebody who, you know, you take great interest in the complexities of your family, and I think acknowledging the complexities of your parents is hard. It's hard to look at your parents and be like, they get lonely. You know, like, It's hard to look at your parents and be like, they get really sad and frustrated, and they don't really know what they're doing either. You know, life is a process of not knowing what you're doing and doing stuff anyways. And the great success in life is that you did something, not that you did the right thing sometimes. Just wanting to set the camera on me and set it on my mom and just talk candidly and go out with a whimper rather than a bang, even though maybe for some people it could have been an emotional bang. I think it was the button that the project needed for me, and the only one I had time to make.
Yeah. I was thinking about how, like, if you were to categorize this film, it would easily be documentary, and then you had the inclusion of the snowman. I was like, it'd be funny if this said fantasy. Just because of that guy. No, it was a really beautiful film. It's I'm sure everybody has a difficulty with, you know, their individual relationships with this, and then also like looking at as you get older and kind of looking at your parents as a more three-dimensional person. You know, I've been digitizing all my old VHSs right now, and it's like all of me of like age 3 through 5 and stuff, and in some ways it's like it all looks so familiar in how I remember it, but then there's this added layer where I'm kind of looking at it as like my mom's life rather than mine. Like I'm a participant in her life, you know, and just kind of watching it that way. And I think you with your film, you did a really good job just kind of like showcasing her as a person and like asking like all these questions about like when she was younger and, you know, going to her old school and hangout spots. And I don't even know if I really have a question there, but it was just you know, really nice.
I think so too. And I had Drew do music, and he, like, from the get-go, for a long time I knew I'd end the year this way, like probably like around the time of the Diarrhea Brothers, I knew I'd end with a movie on my visit home for Christmas. Logistically, it made sense, and also like I knew it had to be about my mom, because like I've had so many pieces of art about my dad, both while he was alive and after he passed. But my mom and I haven't always had the same relationship, probably to my own fault. She would love to act in more stuff and be in more stuff, but I think I just had a bit more of a friendship with my dad in a classical sense. Like he was one of the boys and we just were crazy together. But I think I didn't have any like monument to my mom and an ode to the beautiful person she is and our relationship specifically. So I think I needed to make that, and I asked Drew very early on, like in September, I'm like, I want you to make the music for this.
I remember when I first found your channel, you had a skit where it's you, your mom, and I think Trent like digging a hole.
Yeah, she's very funny in that. Everyone says she makes that video, and she does.
She has like a fake mustache, right?
Yeah. I don't. No, Trent doesn't have a fake mustache. He just has his real mustache, but I have one over my mustache.
Yeah.
As I often used to do. But yeah, she's I think she really liked it. She gets frustrated that she's always my mom. Like that video is one of the only examples where she's playing like a character. For some reason in my work, I always have my mom be my mom. And I think she gets a bit tired of it, but it's just what my brain goes towards.
Yeah.
And like, you know, my dad was kind of always himself too, just he was a very different person and eccentric in a different way and goofy. And I think like he was playing himself even when, you know, I was having him be something crazy. But yeah.
The Caleb scene where you break into the house and you're like hiding and you don't want her to know that you're there is so good.
Yeah, I love a good long take like that. Caleb, for some reason, the Caleb movie, this is going back to that now, full circle, but like, I love him in uninterrupted takes. Like, I think every scene in that movie is a one take. I think like, but it's very unflashy. It's not like a one take like 1917 where you're like, holy shit, this is still going. Every scene in the Caleb movie, I didn't want to allow myself the levity of a jump cut. You know, I didn't want to allow myself the pacing of a jump cut. I didn't want to, like, because I'm like, if this is being presented by Caleb, of course I'm going to allow a lot of artistry to slip in that probably Caleb wouldn't have the technical or thoughtful know-how to pull off. But ultimately, I'm like, I want these to be uninterrupted takes that feel so authentically just a slice of his life in real time. And there's a lot of really long, painful scenes in that movie, like him trying to prank his girlfriend and overhearing a call that she's saying he's not very smart. And like, not only are you watching that scene, you're watching him watch that scene because he's filming it off his computer screen. And it's this like little secret he kept. And it's almost like a sadistic ritual to watch that and like punish himself. Or, and yeah, I think maybe in a way, all my art is sort of always being kaleidoscopically viewed through myself, which is what anyone else but me did. You by the end of the movie, you see that, like, you know, the final scene is her recreating, showing him a movie about him, and her trying to kind of fix the reality where he wasn't apologetic, and she wants him to be apologetic, but then she realizes this eternal flaw of like trying to craft a reality through this lens of your own personal bias and perception of somebody and without considering their feelings. And probably the movie about my mom was just me really trying to get to the root of that, like, three-dimensional person. Like trying to show a little bit, like trying to present her in a way that's very like nice and flattering. I want people to come away thinking like, hey, she's a cool person, but still like being willing to be like, oh, to myself, be like, oh, this isn't like, as much as I can say that I like edited in a way that like made everything a certain way, like edited to the music, had Drew put music in. There's a lot of like manipulation that inherently goes into a film. But I think that movie with my mom was about relinquishing a little of that so I could finally like learn myself that she's a three-dimensional person. Yeah.
With I guess just for like the level of effort it takes to do even like one of these films, or even like the weekly shorts you were doing, you know, I've always taken you as a very like confident person with the stuff that you're making. Did you at any point during this whole thing, whether it's like a specific movie or just the overall thing of I'm making 12 movies, like, did you ever get overcome with like self-doubt or like self-assurance issues, or do you just feel like pretty like assured with yourself?
I wonder how that would have manifested if it did. At this point, like after years of weekly uploads and making a ton of movies, I think I love what I do, which is contrary to what I was watching an interview with Matt Johnston, who's one of my favorite filmmakers, and he was like talking about filmmaking as this miserable process that you hate, and he's never going to watch any of his films again. He's like, once they're done, they're done. And I think a lot of filmmakers have that sort of like, filmmaking has to be misery view on things, and that it needs to be perfect and you need to torture yourself. And I'm just not interested in that. I have fun making my movies. I enjoy surrounding myself with friends that I like making stuff with and making stuff with those people, and giving people the platform to shine and as an artist. Because like before this project, like at best, like I could visit like Eric or Drew or Patrick and Hannah. At best, I could see them once a year or once every couple of years and make a short with them. But the money and the funding of this project allowed me and them the freedom to like just create something more meaningful. And I think stepping away from the whole project, I'm like, all these people I love and I love making stuff with got to make something that they could be proud of forever. And I used my like platform to enable the production of those things, you know, and that to me supersedes any view count or like any self-doubt that might emerge as far as like, why did I do this? I don't think I ever had that thought, because I was so assured in the worthwhileness of creating with the people who I know I love to create with.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking to me about all that.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm a yapper. Thanks for letting me yap.
I am too, so you kind of took it off of me.
Yeah. But it was great to catch up, because we did do that first interview when my channel took off. We didn't bring that up yet. Hi, guys.
Hi. From 2021.
2021, you interviewed me long distance. We never met in person at the time, but I was sitting in my van, was I?
You were in your mom's house, I think.
I was still at my mom's house.
There was like wood paneling in the window.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you for letting us do that back then and just like keeping in touch since then. And you acted in my video that came out this year or last year. Time is weird now.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And I love making movies and videos and stuff. And what you're doing, I think, has been kind of a good like blueprint for like what's possible. And I know that like kind of inspiring other people has been a big focal point of what you talk about when you film yourself talking about your projects. And so I think you do a real good job.
Thank you so much. That means so much. Handshake again.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Beautiful.